Hi guys, nice to see you. You can hear me all okay, yeah? Brilliant, awesome. Right, so I'm Chrissy Morgan, and today I have around 20 minutes to give you an overview of what frontline operatives need to consider when they're meeting their adversaries, because their adversaries now will be using tech against them. Because no longer is it a matter of catching bullets, you will have all these technical attacks coming forwards. And the problem is some of these guys don't even know with any of this stuff what's out there. So some of you may know me from Twitter, and I do a lot of research in different areas, take part in, I've run some CTFs and some awards and stuff, and also I run the CoLab, which is a hardware hacking based workshop. I teach people how to build their own hacking tools. And part of that is because I like exploring technical attacks, and then with that technical surface, I like to use that in a physical realm, so it can turn into a physical attack. Now, how many of you here have taken part in a physical penetration test? Can you put your hand up? Cool, oh wow, there's loads of you. That's awesome. How many of you take part in like social engineering gigs, that sort of thing? It's all tied in, right, cool. All right, how many of you hacked a bodyguard? Okay, cool. Now, the thing is, right, you may have done it and not even realised, because we're taught to blend in. We're taught to keep our heads down, look out for our client. And a lot of people kind of don't realise that they're there. Now, believe it or not, I used to be a bodyguard. And one of the things that we're taught is not to assume anything by what we see. So that's one takeaway I'd like you to take today, is that you have something, it's a threat, you're looking at it and you don't think it's a threat, and that's just because you're looking at it as well. It's just not soaking in. But we're taught not to take for granted what we can see. But the problem is, bodyguards are taught to look out for things that they can see, but what about the stuff we can't see? What about the technical attacks and the hackers? They're not taught how to defend against that at all. So I'd like to speak about operational security with you today, and basically who is involved and what it is they do, and then I'll follow up with some example attacks. So first up, in an operation, who do we have? So many operations will be different, but you always have a VIP. They can be called a client or a principal, and they will have protection because there's either an active threat against them or as a precautionary measure. You then have your bodyguard, who's also known as a close protection officer or a personal protection officer. And they will be with the client during the waking hours, and it's a one-to-one protective relationship. You also then have the protective team, and their job is to provide backup to the bodyguard. And they may also have duties such as looking after friends, relative partners in a more of a backup sense, and outer court. Then we have residential security. Now, residential security is to provide inner perimeter protection, and they'll give backup to everyone else as well. But they can also take part in the household management and day-to-day running of an estate, for example. And they work in partnership with the perimeter security guys. Now, they're your general security guides. They'll be looking at CCTV, access control systems, that kind of thing. And then you have security operations, which is the brains of everything. And that will be run by a security company. Now, traditionally, what they'll be is the hub of communications, but with that, they'll also carry out other tasks like recruitment, for example. And they'll work hand in hand with third parties that they bring in. And third parties could be security drivers, surveillance guys. There's a lot of different third parties who are involved in the whole process, but that's generally on an ad hoc basis. So, what protections do we have in place? We have CCTV and fence, access control, and alarms. And predominantly that is controlled by residential security, perimeter, and security operations. And then we have penetration tests, protective and counter surveillance, and also tactical counter surveillance sweeps. So it's called TCSM, and they're looking for listening devices, bugs, that sort of thing. And that is predominantly carried out by third parties that are involved. Then we have background intelligence checks, training and awareness, and lastly, information security protection, which is part of the area that I'm involved in. So some of the research that I undertake and look into is asking questions, like what happens if you take away the protections? What happens if you change the target? No longer are you targeting the VIP, you're now targeting the bodyguard and the protection team. So I have a case study, Security Kev. Now, he is Ed Sheeran's bodyguard. And they have a lovely relationship online. It's beautiful. It's a lot of comedy value, but what's happened with Security Kev, he's now actually become a public figure in his own right. He has now got over 1 million followers on Instagram. Unfortunately for Security Kev, what else he has online is his personal details. So I was able to, within 15 minutes, get his full name, address, or previous addresses, date of birth, things like that. Now that gives us an idea of what else to look out for and start to build a picture around Kev, his work life and his personal life. And unfortunately for Kev, because he's a UK citizen, back in the day, before the internet blew up, we would all register companies, and it looks like what he's done is registered his company with his business address. Now that was fine back then, but 20 years later, you've now got everything accessible to everyone. And the problem is, what you need to do with that is, if you're an attacker, look out for that kind of information and figure out how can you turn that into a physical attack. And one of the things you can do is look at mobile phones and mobile phone numbers. People give them out freely. And that's fine for someone normal, but if you're a security operative, what you can do is you can use app analytics. So there's an app called Agent for WhatsApp Messenger. And what it will do is it will look at your online usage. So it will see when you're online and when you're offline. And WhatsApp is very, very much used throughout the industry in the physical world, prolifically. But I can find out if someone's on shift or not on shift, their sleeping patterns, the routines from that. Then you also have stuff like Grabify. So you could send them a link and then you might be able to find out general location of where they are. You've also got people who've claimed that they can figure out the location based on the mobile phone that you have, or the number. So we've established that stuff online can be quite dangerous. And one of the things that I found was Ed Sheeran's house and his home address. And from that I could have a look on Google Maps, and I was able to see what kind of alarm system and CCTV cameras. I could see a nice high-level view there. I could see what vehicles were here, also fence and entry and exit points. Also a little gap in the fence. So it's quite interesting, but these are old pictures, and I would still need to go and survey the property to go and make sure that this all still stands. However, what actually happened is the Sun newspaper did the job for me. So what we can see here now is that we can actually see there's a security camera pointed at the gates. He's improved the gates and the fencing all around the property, so that's good. But I can see a load of vehicles and different types of cars. And I've got a lovely 360 degree of the property. I mean, this has obviously been taken by a drone, so I could probably carry out some form of drone attack. And also what I was able to find was the building schematics. And not only that, Ed has been quite vocal online about the actual building plans. So one of the things he did state was that he has built an underground tunnel that goes to his pub. He actually has his own pub. And he wouldn't, right? And the thing is, he has a tunnel and that goes to the house. And he's made it so you can lock down the tunnel. Now, I would be thinking with an attacker mindset, what can I do with that? He's already stated online that his wife and him do not drink at the same time. So if Ed's in the pub, where's his wife? Could it be that he's in the pub, the doors are all locked, everyone's partying in the pub, she's in the house alone? You know, that makes her a target now. So thinking around what they've put out there, the sort of scenarios that's possible. So technical vulnerabilities and bringing them through to a physical attack. Here are some examples. So if I was to leave the pen test partner guys at Ed's house for a little while, I'm pretty sure that they're going to end up finding something. Now, Cyber Gibbons, who is one of their researchers, he was able to find that he could attack alarm systems. And what he could do, he could malform packets, And then that would take the alarm system offline, and then you'd have to go and physically reset it. Now, what we're looking for here is just enough time, enough distraction on the team so then you can carry out an attack. So stuff like this would work. He could block the signals on the remote for it, and he could also do a replay attack, so he could disarm it. Now, you can mess around with a security guard all night doing this. I mean, finally, at some point, they're going to turn the thing off, aren't they? Because their client is having a go at them and moaning at them, you know. So it's good, you know, things like this could have massive effect. Car hacking. Now, car hacking has massive physical implications. We can buy a car fob jammer really cheaply online, and all I'd need to do is distract the team, the driver, or whoever else who's around this vehicle for a short period of time. Now, M-bus and D-bus, which is entering and exiting a car, is one of the most vulnerable points in an operation. So you could distract them just for a split second. And this is the ex-Ukrainian prime minister here getting attacked. And what we see is the assailants get hold of one of the bodyguards and end up spraying him in the face as well. Or you could just carry out embarrassment. No, your security team couldn't get you in your car. It happened to Theresa May. The security operative couldn't open up the door. The next thing we have is Theresa May struggles with another exit. So, little things, but it all adds up. So what if you haven't got a target? What if you don't know a bodyguard team or you don't have a high VIP to attack? You can go out and find them. And how would you do this? Well, activists have put top 100 lists out online of top targets who are companies, pharmaceuticals, banks, hedge funds, as you can see. I'm probably on a hit list now for just viewing this thing, but it gives you all the details and all the places, and this is like the West End of London. And this is all you would need to actually start a campaign. Next up, so you don't want to go and hit one of the harder targets like a bank or one of these organizations because they're going to have a good stronghold of security. You could go and hit one of the hotels instead. Now here's a map of all the 4-star and 5-star hotels, and they would be considered a softer target to go and approach. So what would you do if you go to a hotel? What would you do? You could set up a Wi-Fi attack. Quite easily get someone, any uneducated guest, to join your access point. The guys on the ground, they're doing RST duties, and it's not just in the home, but it's also when they're away, so when they're in the hotels. You'll find them parked outside or sat outside the rooms on the whole wing. And, you know, sooner or later, they could join to your network. It's game over. You can also carry out access control attacks. Now, I created the Purse of Pawnage here just so I could have a remote way of collecting data and details of cards, so then I could go ahead and clone them, because they're going to assume or suspect a big bag, but they're never going to suspect a purse. And I could leave that anywhere. Also, you have Proxmark 3, RDV4, which has now had an upgrade with a battery pack. So you could have that in the palm of your hand, walk past any of the team, or go into the elevator with them, or anything, and then you'll have the card details once again. So you can identify, you could either mass identify targets that way, or be very specific and get someone that way. And it's very easy to get into this. So I started with Arduino and an RF522 board, and I teach for $20 you can get a kit to do that. And I teach that sort of stuff in this area. So car parks. Why would a girl want to hang out in a car park? The reason being is because when I was doing my research, I realized that for Bluetooth devices, you need to capture it from it connecting and disconnecting, and that's where you pick up the details. And a car park, I thought, would be a brilliant place to be able to do that. If you was there for long enough, you'd be able to pick up the different devices that are used. And this is the same area of West London, where you've got all the embassies and all the big businesses and stuff like that, and the car parks around it. And you could pick up routines, perhaps, the different devices used. If you've got enough time and connection, you can get to it. You could get reverse back into the phone. There's loads of different attack surfaces when it comes to Bluetooth. And one of the things that I was looking at was the Apple EarPods. Now, if these headlines are anything to go by, they're not as secure as we think they are. And a lot of the guys who work on the ground, they can be materialistic, so they're going to want to have the best and the latest tech. And of course, having a headset earpiece is going to be operationally good for them because it keeps their hands free. So looking at this stuff here, I was thinking, okay, so how can I attack this surface? What can I do? So maybe some of the guys can't afford the official Apple AirPods and they'll go ahead and they'll get the cheaper headsets. So I went and bought one online. And I started doing some stuff with the micro bits. Now, unfortunately, that only picks up the lower range with the Bluetooth Low Energy, but with the ESP32s at the moment, I'm working with the Bluetooth API to then do some sniffing. I can do spoofing quite easily without a pin needed as well. So I could sit there, just pretend it's their device that they want to connect to, connects to me instead. Okay, so operational weak spots. There are lots, but I've only got time to go over communications because that's one of the main things that you could do to attack and interfere with an operation. So what do we have? We can use all sorts of stuff for evil, but communications, we have mobile applications, phone, email, social media, and radio. So first up, social media. Now, if I was to attack a team, what would I do? I mean, everyone leaks information, but I would actually target the bodyguard. And it would be an intelligence gathering exercise, or I could send malicious links. And why? Because physical security guys do recruitment on social media, so it's an easy target. There's also communication, and people love to update their followers on what they're doing. So you could actually probably intercept and get in even before they're on a live operation. And this is an example. So here is a job that's been posted out, and what they've done, they've used a tiny URL link, and the guys are expected to click on that link to find out more information. It'll take you through to a website. Now, luckily enough, that's through to a legitimate website, but it has been shown that with some of these shortening services, you can hijack the links. So there you go, you've just hacked a bodyguard. Also, some of these people, even if you have a low profile, their friends aren't that great. You've got people who are tagging other operatives in these posts. So now I know that they're a security officer who's, good for PSD duty. But this guy here, he's actually just posted his WhatsApp number online. Call me, tell me details. Okay, so email. Email, everyone knows about phishing, easy thing to do, and it's a really effective way to do it. Because if it was me, I'd hit the third parties. Say, for example, you pretend you're an electrician company or something like that, you could then get into a property. Or if you wanted to mess with the operations, you could pretend to be one of their partners or clients who are involved in an operation. And it's a really good way of doing it because then you actually establish a mid to long-term foothold and you just wait. You wait until the right time and then you can make action and do something. Even if it's just changing the details, it would be effective in, attacking perhaps. Phone. So if I was to attack a team and wanting to murder the client, I would go ahead and carry out a jamming attack. I would take out all communications around the area because I don't want you calling for backup. And it's quite easy to do. For £1,000, I can buy one of these devices with 16 antennas that takes out everything. It's beautiful. But it's extremely dangerous. Then we have mobile applications. So I would actually probably be a little bit more sinister and a little bit more low-key on this. I would specifically concentrate on perhaps targeting the live location. Because the guys on the ground use live location to send back to operations and just let them know where they are and what they're doing at all times. So what could we do with that? We could falsify the information and carry out a kidnap. And we can do this with hardware and software or malware, but Ling Hung here, she has a GPS device that can mess with the GPS coordinates. We also have ESP26, and those guys there, not intentionally, they created an art studio. And in that, you could go into the studio and it'd be like you were walking into Ecuador if you looked at your phone's location. And that's because it messed with the Wi-Fi location on your phone. If you have Wi-Fi location details set to check for the nearest Wi-Fi point, then it will mess with your signal. And they had everyone looking like they were living in Ecuador. So, radio. Now, a lot of people think about bodyguards, and then they think about having the earpiece in the ear, and they all have their communication. Now, that's kind of slowly phasing out. We're more going towards using phones, for example. But with radios, it's still used prevalently, especially in events. And what I'd do is I would intercept the device. I would monitor communications and perhaps block them. And how would I do that? I would use the tech that's out there already. We have loads of stuff that works with radio, as we know. But one of the other things I could do is look at Security Kev, for example. He has got loads of photos of him online with his radio. Yeah, sure, I could have it and I could strangle him with it because it's wrapped around his neck, but I'm not going to do that. What I did is I started to reverse engineer and look at the make and the model based on the photos. Then I was able to see what Wi-Fi connectivity it had, if it had any Bluetooth, if it had any other sort of technology, including the encryption type. It's only a matter of time before I can then start reverse engineering and intercepting these communications. And that's if he's using all those sort of features. I mean, if he's not, there is stuff like mobile repeaters that would help do the job for you, and also SDR radio. There are also people who've got programs that will go and crack encryption. And the confidentiality of your communications is down to your encryption at the end of the day. So, final thoughts. It's a large attack surface, and the guys out there on the ground don't exactly appreciate or know about it. So a lot of what I do is go out there and teach them and tell them and show them, practically demonstrate with very low tech stuff that I've showed today. You know, it's very 101. I mean, if I can do with something that I bought for $20, guaranteed there's going to be a lot of guys out there with a lot more money than me who can do it a lot better as well. And lastly, please don't go out and hack the bodyguards. Thank you very much.